Welcome to Robotic Ocean. Today we're going to introduce the underwater cable splice repair kit and give you a little bit of training on how to use it. Now this kit contains everything that you're going to need to repair your cable. It's going to give you one splice kit. It's going to give you one epoxy pack, which is enough to do one cable. It's going to give you a mold. Now this one here is a Y-splice. All the mounting hardware that you're going to need to mount everything and connect it. You're going to have a set of adapters that are interchangeable for each pocket that are going to allow you to choose the size of cable that you want to repair, and a roll of vinyl tape. Now we'll get into what you need the vinyl tape for in a little bit later. Okay, so what we're going to get into now are some of the tools that are not included in the kit that you're going to need. You're going to need a variety of cutting tools. A little pair of diagonal cutters, cable cutters, some electrical scissors, and wire strippers. You're going to need some kind of pens to mark the cable, where to cut and where to strip. You're going to need some kind of sandpaper, preferably 60 to 80 grit, so that you can rough up the cable jacket. Then you're going to definitely need some type of isopropyl alcohol or cleaner to clean everything off, make sure there are no oil residues or anything of that nature to contaminate the epoxy process. I do not recommend acetone at this point because it can damage some of the plastic parts or some other issues. It's generally better to go with isopropyl alcohol. Now what I do is I will provide one coat of mold release when I ship the kit, so they'll be ready, set to go right out of the box. But after one or two uses, I do suggest that you reapply some type of mold release. You have a paste wax right here, and you have a spray-on type right here. Okay, what I'd like to also go over real quick, this is a spray for the mold release. So if you just want to go ahead and just give this guy just a quick, just so it's a shiny gloss in there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to let this dry for about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on temperature and everything else, and humidity. But you just let that guy dry a little bit and you're good to go. Okay, welcome back. We're going to have a little look here at how we're going to go ahead and size our cable. First thing is I want to show you right here. This is how your cable should be spliced. Once you've cut it, stripped the wires, and got everything back together, you want your cable splices to be staggered. So this is splice number 1, splice number 2. You don't want them sitting on top of each other, because then as you have more conductors in your cable, it's just going to be this big ball of mess. So you try and stagger them as best as possible. And once you've done that, and then you've soldered everything up, you're good to go, you kind of want to put them inside your mold. Now, and to see where you're going to be at. So now what you need to do is select the right adapters. So what we're going to do is try a couple different adapters here. So we're going to start with 7 millimeter, and we're going to go ahead and put it on the cable and see what we got. So we're going to take this adapter and we're going to put it here in the cable, and we're going to look at it, and as you can see, obviously it's not going to fit. So what we need to do is go in and pull out a different set. So we're going to start with the 9 millimeter and have a look at it. Now we're going to come over here. Now as I put that together, there's a little gap, and that's kind of what we want, right? Just a little tiny gap. Then we squeeze it and we try and pull the cable. Now as you can see right now, I cannot pull that cable through. So that means we're good to go. Now not every cable is going to be the same size. So if we don't have a cable, if we don't have an adapter set that fits that cable, so let's say the nearest size I have if it's even close as a 10 millimeter. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that guy on there, and now I tug it back and forth. I have some resistance, but it literally can slide back and forth. So now this is where that vinyl tape comes into play. So you're actually going to have to put the adapter in the mold. You're going to have to see where that mold centers up, and we always want the splice in the center of the mold, okay, because that gives us the most inside. So also when you put your cable and you go into splice it together and you size it, so you're going to have to look at where you need to be, okay. So you can go ahead and look at this, and I like to use a white paint marker, and I say, okay, this is where my cable should be in the mold. And then I look here at the adapter and I can see right there, this is where the epoxy is going to come to. So I come to those two areas right there, right? So now that I've marked that, I look over here at my vinyl tape, and I know, based on what I just did, that we are too loose. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this vinyl tape right inside there, because that is where, you notice, right in between there. So this vinyl tape, we don't want this in the epoxy, we want this out here on the edge right there. So we want to put him right here like this, and we just do like one, maybe 1.5 wraps. And we take our scissors and we go ahead and we give a little cut. And then what we do is we take our adapters back out, put it back in the mold, just like that. And now we pull. As you can see, I can pull on this now, and it's not going anywhere. So that's why we have that vinyl tape, because every cable, even though it says it's a 9 millimeter or an 8 millimeter, every batch is different, and cables aren't round. So that's why we provide the vinyl tape, is to take up any excess. But we know that this is going to be a 9 millimeter, so we're going to go ahead and use our 9 millimeter. So you're going to need one set for here. You're going to need one set for the other side. Just like that. We're going to put this vinyl tape away. We don't need that right now. And we're going to remove the tape that's on here, because we got the right size adapters in there already. Okay? So we're going to pull that off just like that. Now that we have our adapters in, we're going to go to the hardware. We're going to open this up. We're just going to put this all out on the table so we can see what's what. Alright, so we have our hardware out, and you're going to have 4 bolts, wing nuts, and washers to secure it. And then you have 4 pins that are designed to hold the adapters in place. So we're going to go ahead and make sure the adapters are in. We're going to come from the top side, and that's the side with the writing. Go ahead and put those guys in. Okay. Come over with this one. Alright. So now we have those guys in and they're secure. Now one of the things we're going to do is we're going to take our cable splice back in here. We're going to look at this guy, and now we're going to rough the cable up. We're going to rough that jacket up so that it accepts the epoxy, has more of a mechanical bond to it. Okay? So I'm going to take my 60 grit sandpaper here, and I've marked where it comes out of the mold and kind of where it goes into the mold. And what we're going to do is just kind of overlap a little bit. So we're going to go a little bit on each side, because if the cable's roughed up a little bit on the outside, that really doesn't make a bit of difference. So we're going to go ahead and pull that guy out. And again, we're just going to take that area all the way down to here, right, so that we can get a full mechanical bond. And we're just going to rotate it around and rough that guy up. Making sure we go all the way up to there. Okay, now once we do that, we're going to go ahead and let this guy down like that. We're going to get a little bit of isopropyl alcohol onto a wipe. We're going to fold this guy up. We're going to saturate him pretty good, okay? And then we're going to come over here and just kind of wipe them down and let them air out. Okay. And we'll just kind of clean up a little bit of the debris there because we like a nice clean work area. Alright, we're going to come back in a second and we're going to go start putting stuff together. Alright, welcome back. I went ahead and roughed up the other side there because you do need to do both. So we're going to go ahead and place this in the mold. One thing I want to point out real quick is if you look down here at the mold, how these work is you have a matching set, but for each cable splice you're going to get 4. So you're going to get 2 for this side and 2 for this side. Now keep in mind, if you have a much larger cable on the other side, all you have to do is take this guy out and then put in a different size. So if you can see right there, you can have 2 different size cables come into here. So I just wanted to go over that real quick so you guys kind of had an idea how it worked. Again, they slide right into that pocket. Come over here and you just put the pin in from that side and you're good to go. Okay, so we're going to come over here. We're going to lay our cable right inside. And we're going to bend and maneuver it so that we get things as centered as possible. Because I don't want that thing right there in the center. So note that things, you can move stuff around. Now, we're going to take this second half and we're just going to fold that over and line it up. We bring them like that. Now if you look at the top, just make sure that all the pockets line up and you're good to go, right? So if you look there, everything's lined up. You can tell if it's off center like that. You don't want that. So you just kind of want everything kind of lined up like that. And you come in from one side. Make sure you have a washer on that guy. What I like to do is come in and do 1 bolt at a time. Come in and put a washer on here. And we start off and we just do kind of finger tight, just like that. So you got 1 going there, and come down, bottom side down here. And I don't know if any of you guys, your father ever took you out and showed you how to change a tire, but you do that opposite side every one. So let's have a look here. So we're going to go ahead and again hand tighten that guy. Now for the bottom ones, you're going to want that wing nut, the wing part there, you want that parallel to the bottom so that it doesn't interfere with it sitting flat. Because these things work best when they're sitting flat. So if you're out in the field, clear space, try and get it as flat as possible because flat and level is your friend. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and put the rest of these bolts in and then we'll come back and show you how to pour. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get ready to pour. Now, one thing I want to go over is these packets should come sealed. If it's not sealed for some reason, please contact us and we'll try and get you something better. Alright, let's go ahead. So you need to do that right there. And now what you have a 2-part epoxy. And you're going to have to take your fingers, and this isn't necessarily easy, grab some of the one side and then grab some of the other side right where that little seal is right there, and then you're going to have to pull that apart. After you pull that apart, you're going to have to go through a series of mixing. Now understand that you only have a 5-minute working time with this. This is a a quick fire epoxy. This is for field use, so that it sets up really quick and you don't have to wait for stuff out in the elements too long. Okay, we do sell different epoxies or urethanes for in-shop use that are a little bit slow cure, a little bit easier to work with. However, for this is all about field service right now, so we're giving you the stuff that you're going to see out there in the field. Okay, so after you go ahead and you separate the two, that heat seal that seals the two in between, after you separate that, and you're going to start to mix, and I'm going to show you how to mix a little bit. Okay, so we're going to pull that little seal apart, and then I'm going to show you a method that I use in particular that it helps me ensure that everything gets mixed really well. So what they want you to do is they want you to go ahead and do this kind of stuff here. And that's great, but I want to make sure I get everything out of the corners and all that stuff in an expeditious time manner. So I take it on the edge of the table, get that corner, and I just roll it. And then again, I roll it all the way like that. As you can see, I can get the majority of it right there. And then I do the same thing the other direction. So I just keep doing it back and forth. And then I go to the wringing out method that they recommend on the package. I just kind of, now again, 30, 40 seconds of mixing, no more than a minute. And we go ahead, we clip a corner, and we do a slow pour. Okay, so as you can see, we're going down in here, and eventually you're going to see it start to rise up to the top. But again, you want to give this time to settle into all the nooks and crannies, get in that cable, and what this is going to do is let it rise up without a whole lot of air bubbles being trapped inside there. As you get closer, you can even slow down a little bit. Now, in a day when it's 75, 80 degrees inside, you got 5-minute working time. But if you're out in the field, you're out in the sun, and it's 95 degrees, you're going to have to really work fast, because this stuff is affected by the heat and it's going to fire off quicker. So as we come to the top, I like to bring it to that second lip that you see right there. And then I pause for a minute. And I just kind of bang it around, shake it a little bit. Go try and get some air bubbles out one way, some just out that way. You just kind of move it around. But you shouldn't have a whole lot of air bubbles if you go slow. Now it's already starting to thicken up, and you just kind of want to make sure you fill this whole cavity so that it has some material if it starts to shrink back. And there we go. So now what you've got, and don't worry if you spill some on the outside or any of that kind of stuff. This is Delrin, it just peels right off. Okay? So now what we're going to do is, you can see we're mostly level, and if you want to sit there and try and tap out any air bubbles and kind of just move stuff around, all that stuff is fine, but this stuff thickens up pretty quick, so it's just kind of one of those things where you can push that elevator button all you want, but it's not going to move any faster. Okay, so the next video is going to be us taking this thing apart. Okay, welcome back. Yesterday we showed you how to pour a single splice cable mold, and what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to remove that, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it here in a second. Okay, so you're basically going to need a screwdriver and the same Allen wrench that you use to assemble this project with. Now yesterday, you will note that I filled it all the way up flush with that top surface, okay? So that top surface was flush. Due to the shrinkage and settling, you can see there, that's why we fill it all the way to the top, is it's going to settle a little bit. So let's go ahead and start this assembly. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take out the mounting bolts. And we're going to go ahead and leave the pins in so they don't pull out with the when you try and get the cable out of there. So it should just be pretty simple here. We're going to spin that off. Okay, take him off. Over. Just a quick little twist on that guy. Now one thing to keep in mind, this is plastic, so we don't want to go crazy. We want to start out real nice and slow. So what we're going to do is, right here are the pry points. I've got one here, and one there and one there. So we're going to start with the small screwdriver, and we're going to go ahead and put it into the pry point, and we're simply going to rotate that screwdriver a little bit, and they're just going to keep going all the way around. You're going to hear nice little clicking sounds, which means it's breaking away. Okay. Alright, then we start with a slightly larger one. Come around the back side. And there you go. That pop right there means that one side has come free. So again, come around, we try and do it so a little even. Okay. So now what we have is the mold has come out and it's looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and pull up. Again, slow and gentle. I'm going to pull up over here, turn it around, pull up over here. Again. Steady pressure, and she pops right out. Okay? So now what you're going to have in some cases, you're going to have flashing. All that is just a little bit of extra that came through the cracks. You just pull that off like that. And you can take a razor blade and you can trim it up, make it nice and pretty. But what we have is a little bit of leftover flashing here and there. So this is a nice mold. You can see we got a good bend radius. A lot of relief, strain relief right here. That's why I put that little extra step in there, some good strain relief. So let me go ahead and get a razor blade and I'll show you how to cut off this excess. Okay, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and cut that off. But one thing I want to show you real quick is, once you're done, you're going to want to be able to pull these pins out. And you're going to want to look at these carefully, because there's going to be a little bit of flashing here and there, again, where stuff leaks out. Because this is Delrin, stuff peels off really nicely. Okay? So you're going to have to go through and make sure that your mold is nice and clean before you use it again. So now we're going to cut this guy off. And all I'm going to do is take a razor blade and I'm going to go slightly above the unit and I'm going to come across. And we're just going to slowly repeat that until we get separation. Remember, you want to leave a little bit on there so you don't cut into the mold. And you come come back and you find that same little space. And we just continue to cut until we get all the way through. So now we've cut off the excess, and now you have a completed mold. Now, one recommendation is you wait a minimum of 6 to 8 hours before you demold this. Even if it's a warm, hot day, you really need that 8 hours, preferably 12, to demold. Okay, all done.